Right. Welcome to part 4 of the Convoy War. And I'm going to apologize now in advance because I'm going to try and do this with the window open because it's so hot in my room at the moment. And I am recording a little bit later in the day than I normally like to. Normally I'd like to get this done earlier, but we've had the nurse come around to do a blood test on my mum. She's fine. Just part of the doctor being precautious and making sure she's okay. But yeah, that kind of took over the morning. So this was all done, but has only just been recorded. And actually, interestingly enough, someone's already asked me a question on Twitter, which is covered in this today. So without much further ado, let's get into the escort destroyers. Now, as I keep saying, Bilge Pumps. Bilge Pumps is cool. Bilge Pumps is a link down below. There's lots of Bilge Pumps episodes to come. There's lots of Bilge episodes which have already been recorded and are to come, literally. But there are more which we are planning on recording. We have got literally an endless topic stream, it seems, thanks mostly to the Chinese. If ever we're short of a topic, we just go, what have the Chinese been up to this week? And, oh yeah, they've done all that. All the Russians. All the North Koreans. Or many places in South America. It's basically non-stop fun. Or we can always start commenting about the literal combat ships. Yeah. I don't think we will ever actually let that particular recording see daylight. I've never seen tracks so riled up. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. And Jamie was almost obscene. Bilge Pumps is good. Bilge Pumps is good. Literal combat ships might be a step too far. Bay Class! Alright then, so here's the interesting thing. In the Frigates video, which I put up at X hour this morning and had sorted out after, for some reason, the Bay Class video, Bay Class image came up with the Castle Class picture. Still have no idea why, because when I went back to the PowerPoint to check, this is what I found. So this is what the Bay Class was supposed to look like. Ah, well, you got that picture in full Technicolor instead, so that wasn't too bad. Well, black and white Technicolor. Anyway, it's nice having a Bay Class out. So we're going to talk about the AntiSubmarine Warfare 1944-5. And here's the point I make. By 44 to 45, as you can see, the number of ships being sunk by U-boats per month, and this is the monthly total, goes down quite far. The number of U-boats being sunk is going up quite a bit. One interesting thing is that sunk by U-boats is a bell curve. And, well, the U-boat sinkings is a nice sort of progression. This didn't mean the war got any easier. In 44 to 45, it just meant that there were far more escorts. Sentimetric radar seems to be an obsession here, and I do agree, is very, very potent. It does cause a lot of trouble, because you see, you can know where the U-boats are and try and avoid them, which is what you mostly do with Enigma. When you have the Enigma cracking, mostly try and avoid them. But that isn't going to kill many U-boats, but that might well get you quite a lot of tonnage through. But they still might find you, and of course there is the fact at the same time they are also cracking British codes, which is again fun. So you have it sort of balancing out in a way. But the thing is, if a submarine can't prosecute its attack, it isn't going to get anywhere. So if they have to poke their periscope up above the water to start picking out their targets, well, sentimetric radar can detect that in most weathers. And in most weathers, when it can't, you can't really use an attack to actually launch an attack underwater. If you're on the surface, sentimetric radar definitely will detect you. Way! And there are all these ships going around, which are various forms of frigate, sloop, destroyer, which will have a great day if you're on the surface, if you're a submarine. Basically, if you're a submarine on the surface and there is a fully worked up destroyer nearby, you have basically just become the turkey that voted for Christmas, as far as the destroyer is concerned. And it's a lovely time for them. So, why does this fit with the traditional perception of the Atlantic War as being unended drudgery? Well, it was unended drudgery. Still, going backwards and forwards was pretty darn boring, and there was still a very, very real and present danger. Even though you manage it, it's still present. You have several advantages, though, now. You have lots of escort carriers with lots of swordfish, mainly, going around with depth charges going, "Hello, mon capitan of submarine. I would like to send you to a position closer to the clouds." And various other things going on. You have very nice long-range bombers coming out from land, also going, "Hello, where's your submarine? Take me to your U-boat." Or take me to your wolf pack. Pretty much by the end of World War II, 1944 to 45, the submarines, the U-boats are just... they're in never-ending trouble. But also they've suffered because, honestly, they're at the back of the development curve. You can tell in the nicest way the point at which the Allies really have started to put in a lot of funding into anti-submarine warfare. They've had it already. They've already been putting, but this is when the funding starts to pay off, and the payoff is when the unit numbers start to grow. And if you look, 1942 onwards is always when I say roughly when the new units really start to show up in enough numbers to start making a difference. Well, from 1942 onwards, the number of submarines being sunk grows, because the number of escorts grows, because the number of, and therefore the force you can have around your convoy grows. Not only that, you now have a lot of officers who have had 2-3 years of experience of anti-submarine warfare. And whereas when a sub-crew is sunk or lost, you lose that crew. It's very rare a submarine crew gets home after they've been lost. In the nicest way with the surface ships, especially the Royal Navy ones, quite often the crews are picked up. Quite often you do not lose that experience. You just gain a whole group of people who are really, really pissed off at having been sunk. It works. So this means that actually the experience accumulates far quicker on the anti-submarine warfare side. Far, far quicker. And they have new weapons. And in 1942, you have Hedgehog come out. By 1943, you've got Squid. ASDIC has improved as well. I mean, you've got different types of ASDIC in service. All these things are getting things better. Now, this is one of the critical assets for that, the Hunt class. And I love the Hunt class. They are my favorite of the destroyer escorts. They're the only ones which are custom built as a destroyer escort. And they are a modified Bittern Class sloop. Okay, they take the Bittern Class sloop and they add on the things which make it into a destroyer. Notice those things don't include torpedoes. Which is why this is an escort destroyer. I still to this day do not have any idea why they didn't just call them sloops, but my theory is that it's because sloops were traditionally commanded by more experienced officers, whereas small destroyers had a long history of being commanded by lieutenant commanders. And basically, they were just going for that rank so they could make sure they got the junior officer in without changing other things. Although, frankly, that wouldn't have bothered the Navy that much. So, they're just going for escort destroyer because it sounds cooler, I swear. But no, they're pretty good ships. Their propulsion's provided by 2 Admiralty free drum boilers driving 2... I'm basically repeating the Bittern class again. So, So the Black Swans are modified Bitterns, and the Hunt class are also modified Bitterns. So Hunt class and the Black Swan classes are technically sisters. They've got the same mummy. That sounds weird. I should probably just skip on now. Right then, Hunt class in service. What you saw earlier was a Type 1, I think, the painting. These are a Type 3 and Type 2. Krakowiak is Krakow, either a person from Krakow or named for Krakow. We're not quite sure. Adrias of the Greek Navy is Lieutenant side. The Hunt class were just good ships. They were really, really good ships, and they managed to do the escort war very, very well. They were well armed for it, and if we go back, you can see, they have 2 quick-firing 4-inch Mark 16 guns in 2 twin mounts, so that's fore and aft. They have 4 2-pounder Mark 8 in a quad mount, so that's for air defense. And they've got depth charges and later on the war they'd have hedgehog, squid, all sorts of things fitted to them. They really did like to be modified. They were good ships to modify, actually. They were good hulls. But really, the prosecutors of the U-boat heresy were the conversions of the V&Ws, which were the Royal Navy's World War I leftover destroyers. You have the long-range escorts. What I love is there's actually a debate over what "where" means. It's W-class anti-air. I know this because I've read every document I've seen. It has always said that was it. So that's what I'm going with. But there is still debate. And they have short-range escorts. The thing is, they have, and I did some maths on this, the Royal Navy had 56 of these ships available at the beginning of World War II, and they shamelessly played around with them. The ones which could become long-range escorts, which basically involved removing the smaller boiler and the smaller sort of engine room, and turning into fuel, storage, and bunk space. Because, by the way, you need more crew to man all these light guns, and all these new systems, and you need a lot more fuel to cross the Atlantic than the North Sea, but you don't need as high a speed. Still doing that, they can still do a respectful 24.5 knots, which is more than enough for catching up with convoys. So they were a very good conversion for that front. The anti-air ones were built rather rapidly, conversions to make up for the Hunt numbers and Black Swans on the East Coast, facing the constant German air attacks. And it was just, they were a lot of fun, these ships were. And they were certainly having a lot of fun. The short-range escorts were... Basically, the short-range escorts were, we've got these versions of the V&W class, which we can't really do much with. Okay. What are we going to do? We'll use them as best we can and adapt them as we go? And pretty much that's how it works. And almost to the extent that works with all of them, okay? The V&W, I have given rough ideas for them, and honestly, I end up looking up in 6 books and also checking it out on Wikipedia, because after I'd found those very cool graphics I used earlier in the Battle of the Atlantic on Wikipedia, I thought, ooh, what other cool stuff do they have around on those things? V&W class. And the one thing I would stress, which I found actually Wikipedia the best at stressing this, so possibly it says something about my profession, although that'll get me into trouble, is the sheer variety, and maybe Wikipedia can afford to do that because it's got no word count, no limit space. The sheer variety of it all, the sheer variety of V&Ws in their conversions. Basically, they start out from Model 1 looking like the bottom picture, and the long-range escorts, which are, let's say, the premier conversion, go in looking like HMS Watchman. And actually, HMS Warwick also became a long-range escort, but I can't find a picture of her looking like that. You'll notice that she's lost the forward funnel. small engine room has gone, because she doesn't need the high speed of North Sea anti-German destroyer operations for the Grand Fleet. And all sorts of things be changed, but she really is a World War One archetypal destroyer in her hull shape, and I have to admit, going through North Atlantic in one of them must have been a fun experience. Something we'd all like to wish upon, not necessarily our worst enemy, we could probably wish better things on them, but on someone we really, really would like to see being sick a lot, that would be a very good thing to wish on them. But they got better, but, you know, definitely a North Sea hull. Some value-added stuff. Right. So, interesting question. Sloops. How come the Bittern Class and the Black Swan Class have all these 4-inch guns on them, when they're supposed to be limited to a maximum of 4 3-inch guns, of no more than 4 guns above 3 inches? And yet they have 6 guns of 4 inches. Well, because in 1936 there is the Second London Naval Treaty. I won't say particularly which admiral in the Royal Navy might have had quite a big hand in writing some of these clauses, but it's amazing that the moment it goes through the Bittern Class and then what would become, of course, the Hunt Class and the Black Swan Class, and therefore through them the basis for what will be done with the River Class frigates. This does seem custom written for it. There's no torpedoes, no speed greater than 20 knots, and mount a gun with a caliber exceeding 6.1 inch. No limits on total number of guns. It's brilliant. So that's Article 1, Category B, Section 5. This is another interesting point. A conference was held in the German naval headquarters the following days, attended by the 13 U-boat commanders who were to form the group Convoy on May 30th. It's a quote from a book. Interesting enough, you have this officer who has done it before. He took his sub to Harwich. And you sit there and go, again, the guys have gone through and have fought so hard, and this has happened to you again. Sorry, lunch. So, this is from Jürgen Rohr, which I probably mispronounced and mangled horribly, as I normally do. This book. And this is all what's happening between the 1st of January, 15th February, 1942. Okay. The following mid-ocean escort groups are directed by TF-4, Rear Admiral Lee Bristol, USN. TU-4.111 with the US destroyers Gleaves, Dallas, Upshur, and the US Coast Guard cutter Ingham. TU-4.12 with the US destroyers Wilkes, Madison, Roger, Sturtevant, and Jacob Jones. TU-4.1.3 with the US destroyers Nickelback, Overton, Tarbell, and the US Coast Guard cutter Alexander Hamilton. TU 4.14 with the US destroyers Plunkett, Badger, Decanter, Cole, and the US Coast Guard Campbell. TU 4.15 with the US destroyers Mayo, Simpson, Babbitt, Schneck, and Leary. Redesignated TU 4.1.7 in February. The replacement TU 4.5 comprises Edison, Nicholson, McLeish, Lee, and Bernadou. And I can continue on. The Admiralty's OTC directs EG Escort Group Point B.1 with the RN destroyers Keppel, Shikari in February, in addition to Norwegian destroyer St. Albans, and a Norwegian corvette, Acanthus and Rose. My mom will kill me for getting plant names wrong. Escort Group B2 with RN destroyers Douglas and Leamington, and the Corvettes Sunflower, King Cup, Alisama, and Loosereef. EGB3 with RN destroyers Wanderer and Scimitar, and the Corvettes Reconnul, Rosleys. Well, they're both Free French Navy. Vivian, Arbuton, Daniela, and Asphalt. EGB4 with RN destroyer Boadicea and corvettes Heather, Narcissus, Commandant Drilt, Free French Navy, and Libya, Free French Navy. And again, it goes on. And the following convoy pairs are running. For HX and SC, dates of Westcomp, and all that. So you've got HX 167, 29th December to 4.15, 7th January, B8, 9th of January. SC62, ON51, ONS52, HX168, SC63, ON53, ONS54, HX169, SC64, ON55, ONS56, HX170, SC65, ON57, ONS58, HX171, SC66, ON59, ONS60, HX172, SC67, ON61, ONS62, HX173, SSC68, ON63, ONS64, HX174, SC69, ON65, ONS66, HX175, ON67. These are just the Atlantic convoys. This is just the Atlantic. There is also the Arctic. There is also the Pacific. There is Dutch East Indies, Black Sea, Mediterranean. There are convoys going across the world. This is the level of the convoy war. And this is just in a small period. We are talking the 1st of January to the 15th of February. So we're talking 45 days. There is all this going on in the Atlantic alone, and there are convoys all around the world. And there are battle groups, task forces, amphibious assault groups, all of which have to be escorted and protected. The real feat of World War II, as far as I'm concerned, in so many respects, isn't the sheer amount of logistics moved. It isn't the sheer amount of ships constructed. It's the fact that with relatively so few ships, they still managed to accomplish all this. It either shows that submarine warfare was really not as effective as sometimes it's made out to be, or, and this is the more likely one, it shows just how effective the Royal Navy and the Allied Navy's crews were at using the ships they had available to really get the maximum. I've been saying that from 1942 onwards, the numbers start to increase. They do. You're talking it grows from 4 or 5 to 6 or 7 escorts. That makes a big difference. Sometimes they have reserve escort groups they can call in, so they can call in another 4 or 5 vessels. So you can surge a convoy if it's under really a hard attack. I talked about in one video an attack which faced off against 30 U-boats. They called in a surge force. Quite understandably. I'd have called in a surge force as well. It's a lot of operations going on, and you need a lot of ships for it. The advantage was, in many respects, yes, it would have helped if the Royal Navy had had more escorts built prior to World War II. But using the Sloop program, and this is what I'll be talking about later, they had managed to keep up a level of technological understanding that when they needed to, they could take out what was necessary and go, right then, this is what we need for an effective escort. Boom, 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 boom. Can we fit this in what size of commercial hull? Done. This is what we need for this. Da, 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 da. We need to improve this. Right then, so we take on this level, we go to this, we do this. It all comes down off the sloop tree. and you just take it across. This is what we need. And we slot it into this. And it makes sense. It makes far more sense than the idea that this stuff suddenly appears from nowhere. Because let's be honest, if you're under the pressure of war, it's very unlikely stuff is going to appear from nowhere. Unless you're incredibly desperate or incredibly lucky. Usually it appears from years of previous research and study and development. So these are the books, and I have promised there is going to be a book list. I'm not sure if it's going to be attached in today's one. Mainly because I might have to go back and add it in, because I've got to go teach at 2 o'clock. I'm finally getting to record this. I don't know. It's been one of those days. But no, they're good books. And the chronology of the War of the Scene by Jürgen Rohr is really, really interesting. It's quite scary, but it's really interesting. Complements very nicely my other book, which is by Marcus Faulkner, which is an atlas of the battles of the naval, an atlas of the naval war of World War II. Unfortunately, one of my students currently has that book, so I don't have it to show you. But I do recommend Marcus Faulkner's book. And well, flying boats and seaplanes is definitely going to be one I'm looking forward to, because that's another reason I've got this book here, The Spider's Web, because this is all about flying boats being used and seaplanes being used for anti-submarine warfare in World War I. So it's kind of, interesting to go there and go, yeah, these things had experience and had predecessors. Indian Ocean, 1941 to 43. Again, I've been going through the Jürgen Rohr book. Goodness me, there's a lot going on there. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it done in 6 introductions. It's going to be massive. Mahusive, even. Me? Always me. And I'm going to apologize again if this was felt to be a bit rushed. I realize these introductions, I rather like doing them, and I would like to cram in more, and they would probably all end up an hour long if I had completely free time and no other pressing demands on me. But today I've had a bit more stuff. Thank you. Let's just quickly go through to see if there's any points I want to add in. Bay class and Loch class are really cool. Please do look up part 3. They're all about them in there. Anti-submarine warfare, anyone on that 1944 to 45? No, I think I covered that all quite well. I'm going to hope I did. Hunt class. They are cute little ships. Basically, it's made of a design which the Royal Navy knows a lot about. Remember, the Bittern Class is not just the Bittern Class. It also has Enchantress in it, which is the Admiralty's yacht. So all the admirals who have been on that yacht have got familiar with the class's performance and understand it. This is another reason to go for it, because they know it so well. They know its capabilities as a hull form, as a standard design so well. This is why it's such a good basis for the Hunt class. And that's the other thing. These sloops, admirals have a lot of chance to examine them by using them as their commander-in-chief's vessel or the Admiralty yacht. Yes, that sounds silly, but it means that the admirals have a reason to keep looking at them, which is useful for the Director of Naval Construction to also go and evaluate them, but also allows them to be evaluated in exercise, allows them to take part in things which otherwise you might not have a small ship taking part in. You might have it just doing its normal job. But Enchantress is at an exercise. Oh, yeah, well, so she can pretend to be a destroyer escort. We'll see what she can do. And all sorts of things you can use them for. They are very, very pretty lines. They're very pretty lines. You can also see the space where they were thinking when they were doing their designs they might put in torpedoes. They, of course, didn't. But, you can see the spaces in the design where you would put the torpedo launchers. If you didn't pick up, there was a bit of Space Marines overtone going on in this one. Seriously, these ships, they go through complete transformations. It's quite cool. but the adaptations that happens to them are very, very ad hoc. The whole way through, I've been trying to making the point that sort of below cruiser level, lots of ships have lots of adaptations as they go by various their own crews. The V&W class are almost Admiralty sponsored self-improvement projects. There are these theoretical systems which they can be fitted with, and then there are the systems which the crews manage to garner for them. And if the crew manages to garner a suitable weapon system, well, then Admiralty doesn't investigate too closely. And it works out for everyone. We're all happy. That comes from the Castle class book. They had to escort them back. That's the Conference Naval War. They had to escort them back to the UK again. Seriously, I love the way that every single time there's a naval treaty that defines them, the Royal Navy is pretty much defining what will become the model of their anti-submarine warfare escort and what their basis of the time that time. It's, you know, and you were allowed to build as many of these as you want. So if they do need to rapidly build up, if they did, let's put it this way, if the Royal Navy had a couple more years warning of war, let's say they sort of 1936, they knew it was going to be coming in, they thought it was going to be coming in 1940, rather than thinking it was going to be in the 1940s, you would have seen an explosion in the number of sloops ordered. Seriously, they would have gone through the roof. They would have been ordering them as many as they could. They wouldn't have gone for the civilian Corvettes or anything like that, but they'd have probably ordered quite happily 2 to 3 dozen Bittern Class sloops. Just said, oh, we need to increase our presence or something like that, just so they could get them built prior to the war. So they've had that as their base of their escort numbers. But they didn't. They thought they had more time. Everyone always thinks they have more time. That book is amazing. All those books are pretty cool. Right, and I've been through this before, so I'll go back here. Thank you for watching parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I look forward to chatting to you later at 6 o'clock. I'm sure you'll have an amazing load of questions for the live, and thank you. Take care. Have a nice day.